All right, we are looking at guided notes 823. We're talking about interest today, simple interest. Simple interest has got two different parts, and to be honest, the only reason why you have to know kind of how this money thing is set up is that in order to read problems and identify it as simple interest problems, you got to know what that is. So money is either paid or earned using interest. So for borrowing money, when you don't have enough, this would be like a loan to buy a house or a car. You don't just go up and pay cash, you borrow it. It's also something that happens on credit cards. If you don't have cash on you, you put it on your credit card, you get charged interest. That interest is paid. So you have to pay extra for the privilege of borrowing that money. It's tough, right? You don't have money, but you got to pay money to get it. It's a bad beat. Interest can be tough like that. There's also a way, it's for making money. If I have money and I invest it in like a savings account or stocks, basically banks will give me money that I will earn interest. Basically, they give me money so that they can kind of use it on their own. So I put in $100 at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, they give me back $102. They went out and did all kinds of fun stuff with that money. So they give me a little part of it. So you can earn interest on your money, or you can pay interest if you don't have enough money. To solve interest problems, the formula looks like this. Interest, that's the amount. This is probably going to be in dollars. I'll change colors here, is the principal, and that's the original amount. So remember how I put in $100? That was my principal. If I got a loan for $100,000 house, $100,000 is the principal. So that's the original amount times the rate, and you can be charged or earn a lot of money as a percentage or a small amount. Typically, you pay more in interest and you earn a little bit less. That's how banks make money. But the rate, and this is always represented as a decimal. So where if you see a percentage, you're going to have to convert it to a decimal. That's one of the tips that we'll hang on to. And lastly, you multiply that times the time. How long is it in there for? If something is in the bank for a long time, it'll earn more money. If it's in there for less time, it'll earn less. And this is always in years. They calculate interest as annual percent yield, APY. So the setup with, it's going to start pretty straightforward, where all you have to do is identify all these parts, and that finds you the interest. So find the simple interest to the nearest cent. So I is the principal, that's 675, times the rate. It says 4%. I'm going to make sure that I write that as a decimal because that's what the directions say, times the years. Throw it into a calculator. The answer that you get is how much money you would have to pay on this amount. Your interest is 81. All right. So on my next one, interest paid or earned is going to be 1,295 times, and again as a decimal, I move over 2, so this becomes 0.0925. It's not uncommon for interest rates to go to the hundredth, which would be the 10,000ths once we convert it to decimal, times 4. If you haven't already seen one of these videos or been in class, you know that we kind of go back to the fact that calculators are our friends. Could we conceivably do this multiplication? Yes. I wouldn't spend our time doing that right now, though, when we can just type it into the calculator and solve. Last one is going to be interest is 460 times, decimal point, 0.0299. And then this is 6 months, also known as half or 0.05. Bad decimal, 0.5. So, 460 times 299 10,000ths times 5/10ths, or 1/2, because it's less than a year. All right, so that's kind of the setup in the intro of like these numbers work together in this way. Okay. I don't know if I got that one right. Here's the deal. Not all interest problems are going to shake out to be that easy. I kept my formula up at the top. So I'm going to skip over to the second one there. The name's Josie. And what's important to note here is Josie placed an investment, that's her principal, with an interest rate of 6.5%. After how many years? So we don't know T. So T becomes our variable. Will she have earned the interest? So when I set up my problem, everything lines up in the same spot. But in this instance, I know how much interest there is, and I know that it's equal to the principal times the rate as a decimal times the time, which we don't know. So in this one, we're going to multiply 5,200 times 0.065, and I get 338T. That's what my calculator tells me. And this lives over here. I'm going to divide both of these to figure out what T is, right? I'm going to use inverse operations to say, all right, what is 5746 divided by 338? That's how I know it's 17 years. All right, so in each one of these problems, we're going to stop and we're going to say, all right, here's our time. That's good. Here's our principal. That's good. And then he pays the interest. So in this one, what's the missing piece? It's the rate. So I would set up the problem using those same variables and in those same spots, but I will end up with one variable. That variable isn't always the answer. Sometimes we got to kind of identify it and then go find it. So in this instance, I would multiply these two together and then divide it over here to figure out and get R alone. So it's a combination of inverse operations and multiplication. Calculator should do the multiplication. The organization and identification comes from you, and that is what can make these problems a little tricky.